Hey y'all, welcome back to A Dinosaur in the Library. I'm Dawn, and tonight I have a short book review for you. If you watched my library haul, you already know which book that is, and that is Luke Skywalker Can't Read and Other Geeky Truths by Britt. So, as I said in that video, I stopped into the library to pick up some things I had on hold, and wandered into the new nonfiction shelves and a couple of places into the new fiction shelves, and came away with this that someone on a library email list had recommended to me, and I'm really grateful that she did because I really did enjoy this quite a lot. So as I said, if you didn't see my library haul video, this is a nonfiction book that is full of essays about Star Wars and Star Trek and Back to the Future, which I loved. And just all of these other things, Barbarella, just massive amounts of things that, you know, geeks do, Doctor Who, Imagine There's No Frodo, you know, all talking about Tolkien and, you know, just multiple different things, things cross back and forth. So they're not discrete topics. They do get mentioned elsewhere. He does some excellent things with footnotes. I am a huge fan of footnotes. I love them to death, and no, I have not read David Foster Wallace. I have read a short piece of his, but no, I have not read him. I have heard he does epic footnotes. So at some point, I will get to his work, but for right now, I just live through the ones that I know. So this guy does some pretty cool stuff with footnotes, and he talks about, you know, what it is to be a geek, talking about how Doctor Who saved him, which I thought was a really cool essay. You know, it's nonfiction. I don't know how much spoilery I can be, but he talks about, you know, being unemployed, and he'd been watching, I think, Battlestar Galactica, and he's like, that's not great to watch when you're unemployed. But then he started watching the new Who, so the new edition of Who that starts with Eccleston, and, you know, he's like, you know, that regeneration, it brought me out of my funk, you know, it helped save me. And I think that's awesome, because I think that for a lot of geeks, that happens. You find something in the depths of your loneliness, in the depths of your awkwardness, and, you know, you find something that just sparks something in you, and then suddenly you have this entire community surrounding you that thinks the same way you do, and likes the same things, and doesn't question oddball weirdness, you know? So I really liked that. I don't agree with him on everything, however. I do not think that Star Trek First Contact is the only good Next Generation movie. Here we part ways quite sharply. I really love Star Trek, okay? And while I do like Star Wars, I am, if I have to pick a camp, which I am of the opinion you do not have to pick one or the other, I do love both. However, if I was forced at gunpoint to pick one or the other, it would be Star Trek, hands down. I did grow up watching the original series, Shatner, you know, George Takei, all of that, Nichelle Nichols. I love that. Absolutely love the original series. Spock, Uhura, Kirk, they're great. But I am of the firm opinion that Picard is a superior officer. You know, if you're, you know, a Trek lover and you disagree with me, that's cool. That's absolutely cool. But I am of the opinion that Picard is the superior officer. And while I love Star Trek, the original series, and I love the original series movies, I much prefer to watch Next Generation and watch the Next Generation movies over those. I do love First Contact. It is actually, I think, probably my favorite Next Generation Star Trek movie. And here's a side note. So Netflix has all of the Next Generation Star Trek movies except First Contact. Yeah, I don't know how to explain that. Or they did up until a few days ago. So if somebody checks and I'm wrong, it was that way when I checked it. But anyway, so I like all of them. I love the Next Generation movies. So I don't know why he doesn't like them, but that's his opinion, and that's cool. But we diverge quite sharply on that one point specifically because, yeah, I like all of them. He does have this really interesting essay, which is the title essay, about how the Star Wars universe seems to be filled with functionally illiterate people because they don't really have literature. They don't really have, you don't see extensive amounts of writing unless it's just labeling parts of a spaceship or something like that. Excuse me. And, you know, he makes a pretty compelling argument for the fact that the Star Wars universe has kind of gone along this weird track where they've all become functionally illiterate. You know, it's not canon, but so many things aren't that we like and that we trust. So who's to say? I kind of agree with him that it's probably a possibility. Another point that we kind of diverge on is on The Hobbit. So, and I think that this happens with a lot of Lord of the Rings fans. So let's take a little poll here. If you're watching this and you like Lord of the Rings, let me know below whether you like The Hobbit or the trilogy more. Because I have seen so many people who liked the trilogy and hate The Hobbit. They feel like it's a lesser piece of work or whatever. Or there's people like me who absolutely love The Hobbit, but they're like, the trilogy's okay. And there are even those who love The Hobbit and think the trilogy sucks. I happen to like the trilogy. I think it's great. I have read it several times in my life, but I've read The Hobbit many more times. I think that in terms of the story cohesion and the story completeness, I like The Hobbit. I think that while the trilogy is awesome, I think that sometimes there's just too much. And I love epic fantasy. I love, you know, Game of Thrones, that sort of thing. But, you know, if I had to choose a gunpoint, if I could only read The Hobbit or could only read the trilogy, I'm going to pick The Hobbit every time. Just because I feel like it's, you know, you can call it stylistic differences. You can say that the trilogy is much more stylistically sophisticated or whatever, but that doesn't change the fact that I much prefer Bilbo's journey to that of Frodo and his companions. It's just how it is. So what do you think? Let me know below, because I always love to see what people have to say about this question. But anyway, so this is a great book if you are a geek of any stripe. So everything from Star Wars to Doctor Who, go and check this out. You don't have to be completely well-versed in Star Trek or completely well-versed in, you know, Tolkien to read this book and have a good time. I've never watched Battlestar Galactica. It's not something I've avoided. I just haven't ever watched it. And when he was talking about that, I didn't really have any trouble. So I think that if you are a fan of anything, you'll get the general gist of what he's talking about, right? And I would definitely suggest going out and reading this. It's only about 200 pages, really quick read, and yeah, highly recommend. Highly, highly recommend. I think I give it 4 stars on Goodreads. Or you know what? I'm not sure I remembered to post it on Goodreads, but I'm gonna give it 4 stars when I go post it on Goodreads. And like I said, I got this from my local library, so definitely check there if you are like me and are kind of running low on funds, which is why I'm so excited about the library sales coming up, because they're so cheap. But yeah, got it from the library. Go check it out. I imagine it is available multiple outlets, probably on ebook as well. So go out and check this out and let me know what you think. So I hope you guys are having a great week. Oh, and before I go, I do have one thing. So apparently at some point, I can't even remember, I won a book on Jen Campbell's channel, and I will link her below. I absolutely love Jen Campbell, and if you have not watched her, you really, really should. She is the bomb, right? So I won a book over on her channel. I won a copy of Kirsty Logan's The Grace Keepers, and I love this cover. I hadn't seen the paperback cover. I'd only seen the hardcover, which is also gorgeous, but I just think this is so beautiful, and it continues on the back, and it's got the little boat on the spine as well, and it also came with a matching bookmark, A Flooded World, A Floating Circus, 2 Women in Search of a Home. And yeah, so I don't know a ton about this book except just what I've heard about it. It's sort of a dystopian kind of world where the world has been flooded and people kind of go between islands on boats and things, I think. And it just seems like a really cool book. And yeah, so thank you so much to Jen for sending this to me. This came in my mail today as I'm filming this, not as when I'm posting it. But yeah, so I'm hoping to get to this soon. And I will review it when I do. And that's all I had for you guys today. Hopefully I'll get to some of the other library books that I've been looking at, and I'll be reviewing those soon. And I've got some sort of exciting things going on, but I don't want to talk about them because I'm super nervous and I don't want to jinx anything. So I'll talk about them later. But just suffice it to say, for right now, my nerves are completely fried and will continue to be fried for the next month or month and a half. So if you notice any weirdness about, that's what it is. And I hope everybody is having a wonderful, restful week and that you are getting some reading done. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye.